When did you discover your autism?
Well, I didn't know I was diagnosed with autism until 1998, when I was actually the subject of when I was the subject for for a segment on autism by Nick News. And all my life prior to that, I kind of knew I was different from other kids around me. I seemingly acted as differently like all the others. And of course, when you're growing up, your brain, especially if you're on the spectrum, doesn't function, and you certainly don't really understand the world around you. You're kind of wrapped up in your own bubble. And so that to me was and the doctors who examined me initially, I later found out, they told my folks, Jeff will never amount to anything. He'll be very lucky to have a job or make friends or graduate high school. And those kind of barriers were really set up because they expected me to not amount to anything. And of course, like I said, I was first diagnosed when I graduated. I became the first student in my town to have spent pre-K through grade 12 without changing school districts. And that, in a sense, was a barrier that was knocked down. And then they also said that, Jeff will never live on his own. And it wasn't until I was 25 years old that I ultimately moved out of my house and eventually got my own apartment. So I've been living in this apartment for 6 years now. So it's been a fairly interesting, very interesting journey for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can imagine along the way, you must have felt like you needed to prove people wrong.
In a sense, yes.
So let's go back to that Nick News segment that you were talking about. And just so people who aren't familiar can understand, by Nick News, you mean Nickelodeon News, right?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, so how did that come about?
To be honest, I honestly don't know. I mean, one day I was told that, I had heard Nickelodeon News because I obviously watched Nickelodeon in the 1990s, like a lot of people of my generation. And on Sunday nights, there used to be this news show called Nick News, which was targeted towards kids. And I don't know, it was somebody within the network approached the producers, and they said, "Can you come to Seekonk?" And there's this boy who manages autism, and his name is Jeff Snyder. So I guess a news crew came and they kind of filmed me, just going about my normal life. And I used to be a big NASCAR fan, and I would always do pretend NASCAR races on my kitchen table. And so they filmed me doing that. And they also filmed, I have an older sister. They kind of filmed her as well. So, I mean, it was and then of course, as soon as the segment aired, I was in fourth grade when I think I was in fourth grade when that happened, because I was 9 when I was first interviewed, when I was featured. And of course, my principal said, we have a student who was featured on Nick News. His name is Jeff Snyder. And of course, everybody at my school, really, congratulated me on it. So that was really my first exposure to my autism diagnosis. And in that regard.
So what did you understand about it then?
Well, I mean, for one thing, I was very sensitive to loud noises, and then also to, of course, anything that pokes or like needles or bees. I'm still afraid of bees at my age now, and But then, of course, one thing that I also noticed is that I was a very picky eater. I mean, I would always have a separate meal plan for me when we would go to my grandparents' house or my maternal grandmother's apartment. She lived in a 2 unit apartment for a brief period of time, and that's one thing I've noticed is that I was always a very picky eater. I mean, I wouldn't eat vegetables, I wouldn't eat, et cetera, this or those kind of things. I mean, I dairy products. I mean, I didn't drink milk. Let's get that right. I mean, I didn't drink milk because of, I don't know if it was the texture or the taste or whatnot, but, and it was a matter of text and texture that contributed to my picky eating and stuff. And as I've gotten older, I've kind of outgrown that picky eating. So I think a lot of families will notice if their child is being a picky eater. It's good to try new things, but it's not good to force. I mean, you can't force if a child if a child is a picky eater, you got to take it as take the appropriate steps, but don't be forceful. That's one thing that I've come to expect from my perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can imagine that it would be could be even painful in a way if you're trying to
Yeah.
force something aversive into someone's mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, and especially going to the dentist and stuff. It can also be a challenge.
Yeah, we know that sensory overload experiences don't end at childhood. So, how do your sensory issues impact your life today?
I would say probably as I've gotten older, I become more aware of what my sensory related issues are, and I I think for someone that has grown up on the spectrum, as you've gotten older, you tend to you tend to get a better understanding with with your surroundings and stuff. What as I've gotten older, I've realized that uh, I've come to understand that of um, of of the sensory things around me, and the big sensory thing for me is loud noises. And I would always wear. I've started wearing headphones out in public because there are some things that I can't understand with the noise around me. That's where that's one example.
Could you explain what that might feel like when something is too loud for you? What's going on in your body?
Well, for one thing, that I'm always that I can be that I sometimes will stand there and just freeze and not move, and so that would be kind of that would be one example, and then I would always put my hands over my ears to kind of block out the noise, which a lot of people with sensory related issues will do. So that's one example.
So you're managing your sensory issues by controlling your environment, like putting on headphones and
Mhm.
maybe anticipating when you're going to be going somewhere that it's going to be loud.
Yes, yes. It's very, I always try to prepare myself, not just for, not just for like, going out in public, but, and going to loud noise events and stuff like, sporting events or, large gathering settings. I always carry headphones. I mean, like when I have to be social, I will take a headphone out, like an earbud out, just to not be totally, not to totally be rude. It's more of a, just to be kind of, just be kind of 50-50 in a way.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.